Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the Tradie Business School podcast, the only podcast you're ever going to need to grow and scale your trades-based businesses. This is where we get together and we have conversations about things that are happening right now. So I want to welcome my brother from another mother, Brian Santos. I hope you're well, mate. Thanks for joining us on today's podcast.
No, great to be here again, mate.
Excellent, mate. We had a great chat offline just a while ago. Thought this would be a good thing to chat about. I'd love you to tell the story about the 12-year-old client that you've got, and the awareness that she has around the responsibility for her success. And the story that you told me, I thought was quite powerful. So love to share that with our listeners. But this 12-year-old client of yours just happens to be your daughter. So tell us more. What's gone on?
Yeah, so we're changing schools for at least our eldest daughter at the moment, who is, like you said, 12 years old. And so we're going through that process, and then the stage we had this week was to have a meeting with the principal, and the principal had a meeting with us there and my daughter, and he's asking some questions. He's going through her report and saying, like, yeah, this is great. You're really good at this. Here are your strengths, and just asking questions and being really nice about things. And one of the things he brought up in the report was, okay, I really like the fact that the teachers are saying, you're a good worker and you're able to learn independently. And he highlighted that, and he said, that's what I really like. And this is why I'm really excited to have you on board, and joining our school. And he said, because who's responsible for your success? Right. And I thought, wow, what a great question, even for a 12-year-old. And she looked around, she wasn't really sure. And she said, well, like, who's responsible for the success of your learning at school? Is it mum and dad? And she said, she shook her head. Is it your sister who's next to you? No. Is it like me, the principal? Is your success like reliant upon, your teachers? And she shook her head. So he asked the question, so who's responsible for your success? Me, she said. And he nodded, he said, exactly, right? And this is why I'm excited to have you on board, because of, it says that in the report, and you've clicked on to what really success is about, is that you own it. And I thought, wow, this is like a chat with the principal that we're going to change schools to, but it's really applicable, because I thought about that afterwards. As a coach, as a consultant, and working with all sorts of businesses, I often do, sometimes put more want in the success in the success of our clients. But sometimes we forget, ultimately, the success isn't on us, or isn't on their partner, or isn't even not even on their employees or even their clients. The success ultimately is on them. And
I find this all the time talking to clients, and they're often oblivious to the fact that they're in this state of disempowerment, or what's quite often referred to as victim state. Now, victim state has quite a negative connotation, so I refer to it as this state of disempowerment, where they feel like so many other things are to blame for where they're at. Circumstances, this happened to me, that happened to me, rah, rah, rah. Yep. And, it's no lies. Like, those things have definitely happened to you in your life. For those of you who are listening, I'm sure there's half a dozen things that have just come up. Yeah, but this, and this has happened. So that's why I'm where I'm at. Yep. And I've heard it said many times that although it's not your problem, although you were not the cause of the thing that happened or whatever, right? It's your responsibility. And this is the thing that we see all the time. People that I talk to, the amount of times people say to me, I've got to speak to my partner before I work with you. And it's like, how are they going to make this decision? Like, right now, you're abdicating your responsibility to step up and be the leader of the business and make a decision to work with us or not. Like, it's not for me to decide. Like, if you don't want to work with us, that's cool, but please don't put it on your partner. Like, if you are getting those objections, you're probably, that's something that's probably showing up in your life as well. You're constantly advocating your responsibility to make those decisions. But I mean, some of the symptoms I see all the time, like in this state of disempowerment, this lack of responsibility that people take is, like I said before, blaming everything. People are often getting stuck or not asking for help. I mean, is there anything else that you see, Brian, in and around, I guess, the symptoms of people that find themselves in this state?
Yeah, look, honestly, I see it all the time where they, like, let's say, for example, we've had some people who are wanting to join our program, and the questions kind of give you a clue, right? And so they ask questions about us. What are you guys going to do? What are you guys going to offer?
Mm,
And how many follow-up calls do you have? How many, it's on us. So meaning they're thinking about how are you as the coaches and the team members going to help me get my results?
yeah,
Right. So those are the questions. They're real kind of symptoms or
yeah,
clues, if you will. Whereas again, when you're getting any advisor or a team member, yes, you want to ask the right questions to figure out if they'll be the right team members and support crew, if you will. But ultimately, the questions in your head on a daily basis should be, how can I change my situation? How can I use this coaching group? How can I use this employee to the best of my ability to get to my goals, to make my situation a more successful one? How can I? How can I, at the start of a question, is like, really, really powerful, because it then automatically gets you into solution mode as opposed to how can you?
yeah, and it's such, like, I talk about language being such an important tool that we, I guess, undervalue. The we undervalue its importance and we undervalue its impact. Like that stuff that we say to other people and the way that impacts them. We have a responsibility with that, and they have a responsibility. Like I say, responsibility is a double-edged sword all the time, right? Like clients, yep, they want to come to us and they want to ask us for help and how we're going to solve the problem, or vice versa. Quite often we'll be talking to people and we'll be like, how can we help you? We'll be asking those questions. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the person has to take responsibility. And it's so refreshing to hear that discussion's being had with such a young person, because
Yeah.
I don't recall ever having a discussion like that in my primary and high school years, where it was like, how are you going to take responsibility for it? And it's, like, I was talking to somebody about this a while ago, and I said, coaching, in the coaching space, I see this all the time, right? It's like, it's coaches out there that kind of go into this like almost gaslighting space where they're turning it back on the client all the time, right? I think one of our big points of difference is we try and take responsibility. Like if we balls up, if we don't follow our own systems and process and we don't reach out to our clients, then we have to own that. But it's also equally their responsibility to reach out to us if they need help, right? You can't, and this is the thing I see as a problem with society. I'm getting a bit hammed up now, getting on my soapbox. But this problem, this abdication of your own responsibility and this disempowerment, this move to disempowerment and this blame. And I remember like growing up through when I was learning like my trade or my profession, and we used to say all the time, it didn't matter what you did as long as you could cover your ass, right? So it didn't matter what happened. Like that was like a training system, like you could do anything on a job as long as you could handball it, pass the buck to somebody else and say, no, not my fuck up, And that's how society's been programmed, basically how do you, and it stems from survival, right? Going right back to that intrinsic wiring that we have internally to survive. Like we don't want to get in trouble because it's a threat to our existence. If we get cast out from the tribe, there's no protection, and ultimately it threatens our survival. But the thing is, now there's no threat to your survival. Sure, you might, like if you fuck up, you might lose your job, right? Or you might lose your business. Like who knows? But realistically, it's not the end of the world. But this is the thing. People try and do this. I'm not taking any responsibility. I'm not taking any blame. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum where people take all the responsibility in the world because it's just easier. And I see this in business relationships. I see this in personal relationships. People are like, it's just easier if I just say yes, you know?
Mm.
And that's equally as toxic as taking no blame at all, taking no responsibility at all. But I think to circle circle back to, I guess, what you were talking about, what's the contrast? Like if you solve these problems, if you move back to, and this is the thing, there's the two extremes of taking responsibility for absolutely everything and taking responsibility for nothing. I think the middle ground that I certainly try to work towards, and I know the rest of the team do as well, is owning our responsibility, but also the accountability for people. You know, part of our job as coaches is to hold our clients accountable. When you move to that place and you're taking responsibility and holding accountability, what sort of comes of that, do you think?
Well, you know what it's like? It's like taking the shackles off. It's because all the blame, all the kind of reasons that, you know, are in your head as to why you're not where you're at or why you're frustrated, why this and that, are actually like shackles on your legs or whatever it is, right? And the moment that you start to kind of acknowledge and own everything, as in everything in your life, is a result of your responsibility or your own doing or your ability to change or not change something. It's on you. Then I'm telling you, it will release a lot of the stress, release a lot of the shackles. And like things like I know a lot of you out there who are in the trains business find it hard to get good people, to get reliable people, to get people who are taking responsibility and ownership. And I was just thinking, right? So, you know, let's just say the situation with the principal speaking to a new student, in this case, my daughter, and asking questions about, look, you know, who's responsible for your success in this school? If you switch that up and instead of it being the principal, but it was you, the business owner or the manager, and instead of the student, it was a new employee coming in, and you had a discussion and you said, so we'd really love to have you on board. You have the right skill sets and it looks like you have the right attitude. So let me ask you, who's responsible for your success in your role?
Of course you are, Brian, because you're the boss.
Right.
And this is like such a plague out there, right? Maybe we need to run a course on educating employees, but the thing is, right, the ones that we talk about, the star employees, the A-grade employees, they already have that mindset. They already and this is the thing, most people start their own businesses because they have that mindset already.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, it gets lost and they fall into this state of blame and disempowerment, which sees them get stuck. And so, I mean, there's a video of me out there with Brundle Mall's balls, you know, pretending to be Atlas, the Greek god, carrying the weight of the world on the shoulders, you know, and your analogy of those shackles coming off I went straight there with it, because like when you're carrying that burden on you, that there's so much shit out of your control, like I can't do anything about this. The state of disempowering is empowerment is crushing, you know, but when you, instead of asking yourself, like you said before, instead of asking yourself stuff like, why is this happening to me? And why is that person so lucky? Like, they're the wrong questions, you know. How can I change the state that I'm in? You know, how do I get the help that I need? But just asking yourself those different questions just leads you down this different path where it is empowering, because then you start to get resourceful. You start to solve the problems. You start to ask for help. And sometimes that's the first question you need to ask is, who can I ask for help?
Yes. Yep.
You know, so I guess, you know, the solution to being in this state of disempowerment, if you're hearing yourself blaming things all the time, this is part of the problem, right? People are so blissfully unaware of the blame and that victim state that they're in, is that because they're buying what they're selling themselves. They're buying their own story. They're buying their own beliefs. Often it's entrenched in decades of behaviors. You know, the only thing that I can think of, the first step is how do I get help? You know, because often the same mindset that got you to where you are, well, actually not often, 100% of the time, the same mindset that has you where you are, stuck where you are, with the problems that you have that you can't solve is not the same mindset that you need to have to solve those problems. You've got to have a different mindset. And sometimes that, and more often than not, that's an external mindset. I've got this problem. I'm stuck here. I'm in this state where I feel like the weights of the world is on my shoulders. I'm shackled to the business, whatever it may be, whatever story is going on for you, that's keeping you stuck. Just asking somebody else, how the hell do I get out of here? You know? So, I mean, that's for me. I mean, is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, I mean, other than, you talked about symptoms, and as you were talking, I'm thinking one of the symptoms that, that you might see is if you're frustrated. If you feel frustrated often, well, not even often, it's because something's not meeting your standards, or it's not like you're frustrated at someone, something, the client, the process, the whatever it is. It's not, happening to your standard, and it's why it's frustrating. So if you feel that, frustration is a weekly thing for you, then that might be a symptom, a clue that you're thinking it's someone else. It's external to you, right? So again, I think one of the first things that you can do, and immediately this is within your power, is actually switching up the question in your head. Instead of a statement or a question like, what? Why are they doing this? Why are they taking so long? Why is it the X, Y, Z? Instead, how can I fix this? Who do I need to speak to? How can I make it better? Right? It just switches you into solution mode, finding an answer as opposed to finding a problem, if you will.
Yeah. And that's really powerful, right? Because the amount of people out there that are really good at finding problems and then exacerbating those problems and catastrophizing them, it's painful, Imagine if they if you're one of those people, you put that energy into solving the problem. And this is the thing, like I say to people, I don't care which way you go, but my question will always be, is that helpful? Does that help you achieve your goals? Does that help step you towards what you want to be doing with your life? If the answer is no, well, then it's time to choose again. Time to ask yourself better questions. Time to go down a different path, I think. So, yeah. Mate, I think we might wrap it up there because my head is going off on a tangent right now, particularly in and around, extreme ownership. I know, I don't know if people are familiar with a bloke by the name of Jocko Willink. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. He wrote the book, Extreme Ownership. I highly recommend that as a read. It is very powerful to take that extreme ownership, but it's also your responsibility as business leaders to keep people accountable. Our job as coaches is to do the same, have those discussions with people, ask them those questions. Because yes, like the principal coming full circle, the principal did exactly that. He, held your daughter accountable for her responsibility for her success. He asked her that question.
Yeah. And this is the power of questions, right? And like, again, if it was an employee situation or a staff situation or whatever it is, you can ask that question and get them thinking. And if you do it on a regular, weekly, whatever it is, semi-regular basis, say, so who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for your success? If they're not happy, if they're struggling, or if they're slow in their job and they're not, they're making mistakes, whatever. So who's responsible for that? Is it me? Of course, there's going to be some sort of ownership on you in terms of, okay, you've got to give them the right support. But ultimately, they can, I think, that lesson, mate, it's a game changer.
Yeah, pardon the pun. Yeah, I think I was going to say something very profound, but it's escaped me now. But I'm sure it'll come back to me. We'll do it in another podcast. But if I'm having brain fades, then it's time to wrap the show up. But thank you, everybody, for listening. If this has struck a nerve, if you know somebody that is stuck in a state of disempowerment, not victim state, don't tell them that they're in victim state because they will lose their mind. I'm not a victim. Oh, no, I remember what I was going to say. The yeah, but is another symptom. Yeah, but. So if you say yeah, but, or somebody that says yeah, but, rather than just taking on board whatever's being said, then please share this podcast with them. If you yourself don't know the questions to ask, if you are unsure of where to go next, then perhaps it's worth reaching out to us and having a discussion. If you don't know, the email address is hello@tradiebusinessschool.com. Send an email in and just let us know that you need some help. You want to have a chat. We are here to support you. If you did like the show, if you got something out of this, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And we will see you in the next episode. Brian, thank you once again for joining me. It's always good fun jamming with you on these podcasts. And I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.